This is such a DIY channel that we even make the intro music ourselves here. We just start singing, boom, and that's all. Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another CM Kozeman stream. This is your host and general internet weird man, CM Kozeman, speaking, broadcasting live from Istanbul. Hello already to the 6 people who are here: Oreo Soros, Dan McAleer, Jack Films, Blake Richardson, Paula Pesic, Benny, Fernando, everybody, welcome. Why don't you get settled in while I take care of a call of nature? And well, you can look at this guy while you wait for me to come back. Or maybe this is not very suitable. Why don't you look at this picture instead? Yeah, some bird with some creatures and stuff. Yeah. Or maybe, yeah, both of them together. All right. I don't know. I'll be right back. Call everyone you know. Tonight is going to be a fun, entertaining, and jam-packed live stream. Okay, maybe there are kids watching. Yeah, okay. Oh my God, 10 people already. Hello. All right. How are you all doing? Good afternoon, says Kyra Fiskov. Hello. Hello to you, old friend. One of my oldest online friends, and he himself kept the Snyad website running in the early 2010s. So this is the magic neck injury live stream, because in my infinite wisdom, okay, let's lay it back thus. Istanbul is a city of many hills, okay? And on those many hills, there are many stairways for people to walk up and down. And along these stairways, there are many iron railings and hand guards, okay? And at the end of the day, imagine like 30 meters on 10 feet or 20 feet of like just staircases with iron railings. Of course, I wanted to do a rail grind down one of those. And how do I do a rail grind? Of course, I sit on it and I just slide down, you know? And the day before yesterday, no, actually yesterday, in the 3rd of February, 2024, I was doing such a rail slide when I miscalculated the length of the rail, and it was extremely long. So I accelerated too much, and then I landed with a very rapid slam, and it kind of made me slap, like whiplash my neck forward. And now, as a result, I got a big sprained muscle on my, like on where my back connects to my neck, basically. Didn't have a great sleep yesterday, but yeah, still keeping on chugging. Feeling better today thanks to vitamins, rest, and painkillers and shit. Yeah. Oh, God. I hope you all had a great rest and I hope you all had a great week. Yes, this happens every now and then because I like to, well, get into silly actions and it just flips, flaps. Like this thing happens. It doesn't help because I have a mild neck scoliosis at the base of my neck. So, like that muscle is very easy to sprain. It's nothing serious. So, I'll just grow better around it, I guess. Hello, all 16 of you. Welcome. Let's officially get this show started. I hope you had a great week, and I hope you will support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee for my efforts. It's going to be a great, jam packed night. Hello, Doğu Deniz Uğur. Hello, Midori 13. Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm ready to answer your questions and tell my stories. I've been doing all right, other than that. I've been on a painting streak with these. So I've been perfecting a technique in which I use watercolors with charcoal. Now, when you mix these two together, the charcoal really bleeds well into the watercolor, basically, or gouache. And then you get this sort of really nice mid-century artistic effect, like it's from like the studio of a 1920s surrealist or something. And then you can do all sorts of weird colors and stuff. So this is just really fun. So today, it being Sunday, I cured my whiplash injury. I actually went downtown. I got these nice Japanese charcoals, which are really great and really cheap too. Like this whole box costs weirdly less than a single stick of fancy, like Winsor and Newton charcoal, and it's just charcoal. I mean, then I went walking and I found this sort of place where homeless people lit fires, and then I got a piece of charcoal from there. It's almost as good as the fancy Japanese one, but this thing is really nice for drawing. Actually, let me show you how this thing works. All right. I've been having lots of nice drawings. Yes. Anyways, so you just get the charcoal and just now this was the street source charcoal. Now let's move in with this Kohinoor kind of thing. I'm doing something very basic here, so just so that you see how this works. And then we will be on to our regular programming. So then you move in with the watercolors, and it's just really fun. I believe this is how some legacy artists like Miro and Picasso also painted with charcoals as well. So yes. Anyways, this Sunday's drawing. As always, even if you make this most dumbest sketch, you have to sign and date it out of respect for your creations. So yeah. CM Kozeman. Yeah. So this is as yeah. I'm making some mistakes writing upside down, but still, yeah, it's not bad. When I'm dead, it could sell for a hefty price. Anyways, everybody. Blake Richardson says, speaking of neck injuries, a few days ago, I accidentally turned my neck so far. What? Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, don't turn your head as far as it can go. Like, were you role playing as the exorcist or like what's going on there? So 18 people in the chat. Let's get a roll call. Where's everybody hailing from? And then we can move on to our questions. Any questions or comments? If you suffered a weird body injury recently, write me about it so we can also discuss that. Jakub Bobrovic says, are you making something for Simon Roy's upcoming graphic novel? Yes, actually. I have been tapped alongside a bunch of other artists to create creatures for this fictional planet that Simon Roy is setting his next installment, next graphic novel in. And, well, I've been a bit late to that party because of other responsibilities, but this week I hope to get cracking with it, and I hope everybody will like it too. Jakub Bobrovic says he asked me to. Yeah, of course, it's an open source thing, and it's really nice. It's really nice, and like good on Simon for including you too. Fernando Cotecaix hails from Barsoom, the famous planet which stood in for Mars in Edward Rice Burroughs' Mars novels. Blake is from Upper Peninsula, Michigan. That's nice. Squidlord is from Coruscant. Benny from Germany. So we got people from Europe. Paula Pesic from Serbia. Nihal says, hello, Mr. Kozeman. Wow, we got another Turkish lurker. I don't think I've seen you around, but welcome to this channel, Nihal. Doğu Deniz Uğur, actually an in real life friend, is hailing from Bangkok, Thailand. I hope you're having the time of your life there. It must be a very exciting city. Slothman Prophecies is from South Florida. Lizard is hailing from Slovakia. That's nice. We need some lizards here. Ethan Elapa from Johannesburg, all over the world. As the map lights up, I feel so happy. Colchester, UK, the town of many foxes and rabbits. Wasn't there an entity there? Wait. Colchester cryptid. Bunny Man. Is that it? Oh, it's a murder. Yeah, it's a. So I think that's what you were referring to, right? Colchester, UK, where the so-called Bunny Man. Oh no. Oh no, sorry. The Bunny Man is from a similar Colchester. It's from the Colchester overpass in Clifton, Virginia, an American psycho. So yeah. Infantile Gains says hello. Hello, my dear friend. Blake Richardson was just exploring planet C2K, which is 16.5 light years away. If you have a way of moving faster than light, teach us all, so we also get to share. All righty. Now open for... Oh, Absent Fish says, okay, the rabbits of Colchester, they're just normal rabbits and the normal fox. That's great. It's nice to live in a suburban environment with lots of animals, I guess. So I'm a bit haggard from this neck injury. It still hurts. Actually, today, I went to basically another part of the city that's accessible by boat. And on the way back, I just fell asleep because my neck was so painful. So I just, like sleeping is less painful than trying to stay upright because the boat is moving. And because of that, well, I have to orient my neck and it always hurts. 21 people here listening to my silly suburban neck adventures. Now let's have the questions. This is what we're here for. Any questions about anything in life? Elior Solomon says, hello, Kozaman. Hello, my friend. Being a very old-fashioned person, I don't even use smartphones, but I'm now branching out. I launched a Pinterest, don't laugh, and I'm just making new boards there, and I'm using it in a specifically reference setting. So I have boards on organisms, surrealism, outsider art, and traditional art after the French Revolution. I got another board on paleo art. I got a board on mysticism and religious imagery. I got a board on UFO folklore, interesting locations, science fiction, and speculative art, and also military stuff and aviation. So if you're curious to get inspired in a methodical way, go and check pinterest.com/cmkozeman. You won't be disappointed. Also, add me there, and I follow everybody back. So there. Also, I re-established my presence on Discord again, and I think it was kind of silly for me to announce on Twitter I'm on Discord, and then thousands of people, like literally hundreds of people, came flocking in. So I'm very happy for that. And I still can't add everybody back, because if I click on accept too fast, then I get blocked out. Pinterest, no, Discord thinks I'm some sort of a bot. Yeah. Infantile Gains asks, what tools will change the way humans look in the same way the use of horses made Mongols, Hungarians, and Turks shorter? Well, a great question. Maybe even automobiles may be doing that for us already. I don't know what the baseline was, but certainly in places like the United States, you can see pervasive automobile use contributing to obesity and basically the way people look. Also, people use automobiles as a kind of secluded social space. For Americans, it's really different. Like elsewhere in the world, like you get in a car, you get out of a car. But for Americans, most of Americans, the automobile is an extension of their personality. They customize their cars. They live in them. Some of them really literally live in their cars, and it's a grim existence. It's a kind of even like a sexual device. It's got social implications. Like America is the only place where you can have like a car which is like a teenage car. Like as you grow up, you're supposed to use a more mature car. I don't know, but like elsewhere in the rest of the world, goddamn, I mean, mobility is severely limited. So you have it so good. Squidlord says, I walked 10 kilometers today. That's great. From where to where? Give us details of your odyssey, and it will be interesting to discuss. Kojira says, hello there, dear CM Kozaman. Hello, very close, a very popular paleo YouTuber in Turkey and a good real life, good online friend. Hello, Kojira. Fernando Kotekaix says, how come there are no organisms that specialize in feeding on lice? Maybe no macroorganisms, like, so we don't have things like another insect eating lice, but we probably have parasitic wasps specializing on lice. So yeah, and also lots of diseases, microorganisms. This is just speculation, but I don't know. Squid Lord went to their grandmother's and walked back for some homegrown lemon. Elior Solomon says, walking is better than being driven somewhere, in my opinion. Yes. Yes, actually, I don't really envy that American condition with like highways, roads everywhere, but it's about geography. Like that country is so big and flat that it was practically like built by automobiles in the first half of the 20th century, the Model T and all. Like there are some parts of America that you just cannot access without a car. Elsewhere in the world, it wasn't like that. You had the countries, and then car use came later, and like the pre-existing cities and layouts were adapted to cars, sometimes disastrously, but yeah, in the United States, no. Also, speaking of Discord, I got to check out the CM Kozeman fan community, and thank you all for the great channel you built there. So that was nice. Infantile Gains is asking all the great questions tonight. What do you think of transhumanism? Would it be beneficial or destructive? I think as we understand it now, it would be very destructive. I mean, the things that would result from like a traditional techno or bio transhumanist outlook, they would look like, I mean, they would be like nemesis to humanity itself. Because ultimately, like in the present day, especially if you look at it in the sort of Kurzweilian sense, as espoused by Kurzweil, Ray Kurzweil, another eccentric figure, but he's basically just afraid of dying. And his whole shtick about transhumanism is that someday there will be such an invention or technology will accelerate such that we will either be immortal or we'll be able to build our virtual selves. Yeah, but you see how that's panning out. It's going to be like an AI trained on you. It's going to be like AI art. But it will be soulless. It will never have initiative. AI as we have it is not a general intelligence. It's something else. So even in the dreamiest sense, if all these transhumanists magically had their way, which they can't actually, because where the rubber meets the road, a lot of those technologies like mind-machine interface, space travel and stuff, there are still a lot of unknowns, and like they're just wishing for it, really. So in that sense, transhumanism is impossible, but even if it came to pass, it would be categorically evil. AI simulations of people are such a bad idea, says Popular. Very true. I mean, maybe it could be some sort of grief consolation, but even if you're struck with grief, like, you would know. Like, believe me, you would know. People are smarter. So that's one way to look at it. On the other hand, you could look at transhumanism as any technology which allows humans to exceed the limitations of their bodies. And in that respect, even like good old clothing is a form of transhumanism. 30 people in the chat. It's a busy Sunday, and people are already showering me with hearts and stuff. Thank you so much. So yeah, in the loose term, even using tools or wearing clothes or wearing shoes is a form of transhumanism. Checking some messages now. Okay. Wow, some great questions. Fernando Katakaix asks, do you think something like John Carpenter's The Thing parasite is possible? Loosely, I mean, we already have transmissible cancer cells in Tasmanian devils and dogs. Basically, these animals bite each other's faces and somehow transmit these cancer cells from face to face. And the cancer cells actually belong to one like weird dog who had that cancer, or one weird Tasmanian tiger who had that cancer. So they are having transmissible tumors. So in that respect, you already have something like the thing. But this thing, of course, it's like a contagious disease. As far as we know, it doesn't have agency. Although it would be interesting to postulate if like this cancer also somehow makes animals more aggressive and more likely to fight and then spread it. So maybe it could be. Imagine a disease that makes you want to like make out, or like makes you lustful. So you kiss and make out, but actually while doing so you transmit these little mouth ulcers, which turn out to be this weird tumor from, I don't know, some pervert who first came out with the disease. So you're spreading their cells from mouth to mouth. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Not impossible. Sexy but rabies, says Popular. Yes. Actually, David Cronenberg had a really famous film. Wait. He had a very early film about something like that. Like there's a bunch of parasites and it makes people horny. And as people make out and become sexually active, they transmit these parasites. And so it becomes like a sexy zombie chase movie. The film is called Shivers, 1975. Shivers is amazing. What do you think about Elon Musk's Neuralink device, asks Benny. It looks nightmarish already, says Popular. Yeah, apparently so. Let's put some context. Not that you need it, but let's be pedantic. Elon Musk announced that his company Neuralink will be implanting shit in people's brains, so you'll be able to control a computer with your mind. Now, why is this more convenient than just scrolling on a smartphone? I don't know. I think it's a bit of a PR shit, to be honest. And Elon Musk said, oh, the patient already looks well. Like, this is a massively invasive procedure. You understand? I mean, you go through the brain blood barrier, you go through the skull, you surround, like, you can't pass the brain membrane. How do those cables go in and out? And like, how strong is that connection? Do you think maybe in 10 years this block isolating the wires will develop a leak, so he may have to get a surgery again? It's just gross and invasive. And I've told this on a previous stream that like something like this, you should not accept it from a for-profit company, because probably you are the product. On the other hand, some device like this could probably have like really beneficial uses for people who are paralyzed. So if you have like something really drastically wrong with your life, you may be willing to consider such a drastic response, a sort of brain invasion, a brain surgery to put wires in you. But if you're just a normal person walking and talking, using a smartphone or a computer, this is too big a risk. And we're almost at 40 people. Thanks, everybody. Call everybody you know. Call your friends. Go on Discord. Call your friends of friends. And while you're at it, go to buymeacoffee.com/cmkozeman. You can see some previously unseen artwork there. And also support me. I mean, look, these talks come from the goodness of my heart, but it will be great if you could pay me back just a little. Or if you're donating to me on Patreon, maybe crank that up a little. Go from $1 a month to $5. And you actually, if you go to $5 a month, you get to see some extra content. I don't like paywalls. In an ideal world, I'll just give everything for free. But we have to eat too. And I really, really respect everyone. If you support me on Patreon, your name also appears on the credits list at the end of these big urbex movies, urban expedition films that I make. Elior Solomon says, what would metaphysical diseases be like? So, metaphysical things that are transmitted between person and person. Heartbreak could be one. I mean, it's like a commonly known thing. Like you get hurt by love, you hurt someone else, they hurt someone else. So, who has the Cain in this story? Who committed the first heartbreak? Probably happened before humans evolved. I mean, it's that old, I think. So heartbreak could be one. Hmm. If we want to get really speculative and weird, you could say that suicide epidemics could be considered as metaphysical diseases. Because you see on the news, everybody's doing it. There's no hope for the future. So actually, something like this was happening in Turkey a few years back when, like, in 1 week, there was like news reports of multiple people committing suicide independently. And it just happened at a time of great economical crises. So people were like looking at a really bleak future. So somebody hung himself on the street. And then a few days later, like three housemates could not, they didn't have any money. So they basically like turned on a propane tank in the middle of their house and breathed it in. Like lots of grim stuff like that. It was such an epidemic that the state media actually put a cap on it. And then it was forgotten. And I guess the suicide stopped or slowed, but there's really no way to measure those, is there? Which is really dark because I think, in the same way, I think if a really malicious state or news company or entity really wanted, they could really push a suicide narrative and like get thousands, tens of thousands to like kill themselves. Really dark. So weaponized metaphysical disease. Imagine somehow, I don't know how this happens, but like all the media bosses and government regulators are so evil, they get together and they're like, yeah, we're gonna kill them all or whatever. And then they just sort of like online and offline in legacy media and social media launch this campaign of like suicide news, suicide visibility. And they just, I think it would have a cascading effect, a horrible effect. What an awful, awful weapon. Maybe something like this is being used on us right now. Stay in the realm of living, everybody, by the way. Like, Jesus Christ says cookies. Yeah, it's very dark. It's very dark. I mean, if you had people you loved attempt or say they would attempt something like this, it's really dark. I won't promise anyone a pink future. Like the world is looking very grim, but stick around and see how it pans out. Wonders Pat says, I would love to buy a coffee cup from you, brother. Well, okay, go to buymeacoffee.com/CM Kozeman. Fernando KTKX makes a very salient point. Like, hasn't a lot of Elon Musk's shit failed? Okay, so this guy has a like massive cult power around him, even now. And I remember years ago, like, if this friend knows, maybe if she watches it later on. So this friend and her husband came around to Turkey. She was working in like graphics design or some sort of tech stuff in the US. And then she was normally a very based and yeah, I'm just gonna squeeze it on live stream. Sorry, everybody. But it's so yes, she's a very normally very based and reasonable and grounded individual. But she was like completely taken by this Elon Musk hook, line, and sinker psychic story. She really believed Elon Musk was going to go to Mars. She really believed he was a genius. This was just like in 2015 or something. So it's like his shit hadn't worn out. And it like he seemed like a more benevolent guy. He had just launched that car to space and he was playing David Bowie on the tape and stuff. Oh, anyways. So this person was completely taken by Elon Musk's magic. How ridiculous. And so she was like really excited because maybe she was going to work with one company who probably may be contracted to do the screen UI UX interface for Hyperloop, because Hyperloop was a train that was like going to go underground, like, and then it would not have any windows, so it would need windows. So Daddy Elon contacted this person who knew her to do the windows, and maybe she would do the window UX. Oh my God. And I remember her telling me this story like, is that even gonna fly? Well, it didn't fly. Long story short, Elon Musk makes most of his money from previous investments. Plus, I think he really succeeded with SpaceX, but actually, most of his money there is coming from government and secret military contracts. And this is not a joke. He was saying a while back that now he can, with SpaceX, promise a 1 hour weapon delivery platform. So, like all those missiles going to Mars, carrying cars, he's getting paid to send missiles up China's or Russia's ass or something. Of course, it would be very lucrative in this current new Cold War climate we're going. But yeah, other than that, most of his shit failed. I would not bet a penny on that mind wire thing or whatever. Squidlord does the vomit emoji. I hope you're vomiting from Elon Musk and not from me squeezing my zit on stream. Just a natural guy. Sorry, can't help it, mate. Let's check some messages. Tonight's a really good night. Colton the Sultan says, what's the worst city you've been to? Probably Las Vegas. My parents took me and my brother to an American West Coast vacation years ago. And of course, like our itinerary had to include Las Vegas because, it's a place to see when you're in that part of the world. But I remember all of us being like, what the fuck is this? Like, everything is fake and artificial. And it's like we come from the part of the world where there are good restaurants. So you go to the Pyramid Hotel and everything is fake. There's an Italian restaurant, the food is fake. It's full of hookers and weird, like creepy types. It's just like, and when you go outside, there's nothing to do. Like, don't get me wrong, I like American cities. Then we went to Los Angeles, like, as infernal as that was, it was like, oh, after Las Vegas. The best part of Las Vegas was actually leaving the fucking place and driving with my father driving. And me and my younger brother were in the back seat, and my mother was next to my dad. And I was like 12 or something. It was like one of the core formative memories. We were crossing Death Valley and all that, like all those places, and there was storms in the horizon. Just beautiful. Popular says, how old were you when you first went to? That's a trick question. Well, I told you I was a kid. But even as an adult, I see nothing. I see nothing that could benefit me there. Even if I wanted depravity, I could source that in other ways. Darsu says, still waiting for a gaming stream. One day, when I'll afford a computer that can run games, I'm actually like looking to grow this stream stuff. So maybe I'm looking to do Twitch, but I'm just naively ignorant about most of these things. So yeah. Elior Solomon says, what's the scariest social media platform? By a long shot, it's TikTok. It's unbelievable. And I'm not talking about like people who casually use it to like look at lulzy videos. There are people whose entire lives are spent on TikTok, and it's just awful, awful. Dran wants me to play Spore. Maybe I will one day. Pavle Pezik says, what kind of time measuring system would inhabitants of a tidally locked planet first come up with? So, like, tidally locked being like two planets revolving around a certain unseen point. Like, it would probably depend on the kind of tides you get there. And I'm afraid I'm not as knowledgeable in astrophysics to speculate on that. Atakan Gültekin says, I think Twitter is the most toxic social media. I disagree. Unless you fight people there, it's actually quite cool to use. It's Sarah Jean Hammond, one of my top fans, says, hi, King. Hello, Sarah. Dersu says, selamun aleyküm. Aleyküm selam, iyi geceler. Rea Lavi says, okay, good counterfactual, reusable rockets. Okay, they are kind of a breakthrough. I don't think Elon Musk, like Iron Man, then like equation, like invented them, but like he probably pulled some rugs and levers that gave him control to that patent. And okay. And nobody's totally evil or totally great. Just a little shitty, just a little shifty. Infantile gains. I'm making you the best question person tonight. You're really asking the best questions. Thank you. And who is this awesome figure in your avatar? Can you let everybody know? Looks like a mid-century interwar military guy. I don't know. Really cool profile picture. And anyways, Infantile Gain says, do you think social media will be even more powerful in future warfare? Man, we're already in that kind of war. We're already in that kind of war. What do you think is happening with all that stuff, right wing, left wing stuff, all those? I mean, I'm no stranger to that scene. It's like Ben Shapiro debating Waush, Ben Shapiro debating Destiny, Waush commenting on Hassan Abi, blah blah blah blah blah. These guys have millions of people watching them, educated people too, most of them, and their viewers, not them. And they control vast amounts of access, and there's also a lot of money involved in the whole thing too. This is not just some random cool people just happening to stream and then millions watch them. No, it's something as big and as controlled as television. And don't for a moment assume that ongoing wars have a reflection there. I'm sure certain people are getting paid under the table to talk about certain issues, to platform certain issues. This is how like PR is done at the most hardcore level. Lots of astroturfing. I mean, you could easily see some non-entity like Ben Shapiro as a sort of corporate America's way to claim the right-wing narrative away from the actual right-wing people who might start uncontrollable violent movements. A lot of astroturfing, a lot of political tug of war, and like the Israel war easily has this kind of shadow over social media. Even today, they have their cringy like social media posts, but they're also like social media stakeholder management going on. Like, why do you think Destiny is talking so much about? Why do you think Destiny is debating Cenk Uygur about Israel and stuff? Is it because it's a hot topic? Don't be naive. And then also, let me tell you, if this global war gets more serious, then the kind of content you see on social media is going to be such transparently propagandistic. It's going to look like those in a few years it's going to look like those cheap war ads, like I want you to join the army. It's going to be like, heck, you even saw that, like I was hanging out with a friend just after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and then everybody was talking about how HIMARS is going to be a game changer in Ukraine. HIMARS. And this friend and I, we hang out, we watch YouTube, we like talk shit and stuff. He was just clicking and watching HIMARS videos. And there was like this nice isometric animation with some like weird lady's voice. The rockets are resupplied, and the radar finds the target, the munition is guided. HIMARS. HIMARS gonna win the war. HIMARS. Like that guy was clicking there. The vast mechanism of media and technology and social media power was transparently in operation. It was getting my friend to click HIMARS. See how that turned out. I mean, this is war propaganda. This is, and don't get me, like, don't be naive. Like, militaries around the world have branches, like the US, I think, US Cyber Command. In 2014, the US military established the US Cyber Command, the Department of Defense cyberspace capabilities. Sometimes even other departments like the Marines or the Navy have their own associated cyber warfare departments. And these are not some like crusty generals or like some like hackers or stuff. Social media is a vitally integrated part of this shit. And like it will come to you, it will like try to sway your hand almost visibly when you're making a decision to vote or to talk about certain things, or even if it also works to blanket stuff. Like today, for example, there's this awful war in Yemen. They're bombing everywhere. There's also another whole conflict in Myanmar, a civil war. It's really bloody. These things don't seem very opaque, do they? Why don't they make the headline news? All right, nice. Yeah, military e-girls are a version of this online propaganda. They're like the most surface level scum and cheapest level of this. I mean, they're the clumsiest level of this. At the thing that affects you, me, everybody, the thing that makes my friend click HIMARS is algorithm management. Why is this an agenda today? Why are you watching this? Like you turn on your thing, why do you see that? That's power. That is the power. All right. Do you think all cats in Istanbul could easily take over a country like Malta? I think cats in Istanbul could conquer every country in Europe aside from France and maybe Germany. They got lots of cat platoons and cat reinforcements. Short form content is really scary, says Lizard. It takes complete advantage of my attention span. It's scary. Yes. Especially if you're like depressed or if you're like suffering from something bad, then it's like doom scrolling. This is why I will humanely try to like never let go of this as long as I live. Because now, if you don't use a smartphone, you get to do this in a day. You get to produce real things that like really stay with you, really help you improve yourself. You learn things, you create something beautiful in the world. And 10 years later, I can find this. Oh yeah, it was that artwork. But you will not remember your doom scrolling session, not even 10 days later. Forget 10 years. So yeah. Cookies says, listen to Death Grips Daddy Kozeman. Squidlord says the old decentralized internets with bunches of different forums was the best. We should go back to that. I feel that it may come back as more people go to new platforms such as Discord. I mean, for the last 10 years, it was like either Facebook, Instagram, and maybe one or two other websites that everything came to you through these platforms. Now, with things like Discord or other things like WhatsApp or other platforms I'm probably too stupid to know, now you have a new wave of mobile decentralization, but let's see how long that can be maintained. Elior Solomon says, could an extraterrestrial sex worker be the president of the US? Would a series about this be? Is this an American Dad joke? I don't know. Like, this is too edgy a question. Edward Dory says, what is unique? This, I love you. This is such a great question. Wow. What is unique about Turkish politics in comparison to America? 10 years ago, I would say, oh, America, they got principles. Wow, here they are so religious, all these nut jobs. Wow, it's awful in Turkey. But now I said, motherfuckers, you're worse off than we are. Turkey is what United States or what the constituent breakup republics that will break away from the United States will look like politically in 10 years. We are already living in the future, damn it. And it was very easy to make fun of our strongman president, wasn't it? God damn. I'm not talking to you and anyone in particular. I'm just talking to these I gotta pick the words carefully, these journalistic reprobates from Europe and the US. Oh, you got the regime over there, huh? 10 years ago. Where the fuck are you now? I'm just so full about this thing. Turkish politics are very, very power driven. In fact, it's not about this government, it's not about any government. Wherever, like, if you read, write, produce stuff in Turkish, power is like they're like an open, exposed energy line. The temptation to touch it is very strong because if you talk or like write or gripe about power, then more people listen to you. But then it's a spiral because then you pick a side, you have to stick by it, you have to accept their rules. And this is why I never, after a point, never wanted to write or say anything in public in the Turkish language. I think it's just a dead zero-sum game. There are no good sides. And it's very similar in that respect to US politics. Look, one of the greatest challenges, this is like real talk now. Okay, reel up. One of the greatest challenges democracies around the world faced was how do you avoid a group that's organized in another plane? Now, this could be, so you got the plane of politics, okay? You join this party, you become a delegate, you support their points, get elected, be the president. That's the plane of politics, ideally. There are other planes. There's the corporate plane, which in the United States has massive power. Like, bribery is like officially accepted there. They call them donations. Then you got another plane of existence, which is a religious organization. I don't know why, like it or not, around the world, in all world religions, sometimes some people, not all, but some people come together in this like slime mold, like pyramid of power. They follow like cult leaders or religious leaders. That's power. Now, the greatest challenge that democracies faced in this could be like a philosophy PhD topic, by the way. So the greatest challenge democracy faced in the last 50 years was how do you avoid infiltration and manipulation from those other planes? Because these people could be organized in a religious cult, let's say, and then decide to go into state mechanisms in the army, the police, the judiciary, political parties, and then when their leader says, okay, do this, boom, they have this like unfair power that completely overrules democracy while using its tools and purposes. This has happened in Turkey, everybody knows. It was very blatant, but it's happened in the US too. It's happened in many other countries. And then you got the corporate interests too. Like they pay this party, they pay that party, they appoint delegates. Awful. How do you stop encroachment? Because as it stands, like the post World War II democratic organization of society, it's not without its problems, but it's not so bad. In the last 50 years, this incursion by these other realms, that has been fucking life up for everybody. And the answer to my question, how do you stop? We couldn't stop it. I think the only way to solve this is with like gratuitous bloodshed, but I won't even go there. But yeah. Almost 40 viewers to my almost 40 viewers in my political theoretical rant. Batuhan Besh says even Ottomans couldn't conquer Malta. They didn't bring enough cats along. Squidlord says, I have a real problem with doom scrolling. Why don't you switch to a dumb phone, man? For a week. You can still look at Instagram on your computer. Your life will change. You will be as like hale and happy as I am. Boris Chonev says, good evening, Mr. Kozaman. Good evening from Charigrad, my dear friend. Cookies says, Kozaman, you gotta make a Discord server sometime. There's actually a CM Kozaman fan server. Go to Discord and find it. I can't turn Discord on at the moment. Axe Jacques Film says, I am 3D printing gun accessories as we speak. What's up with Mr. Let's CM Kozamans? Well, man, look, shoot responsibly, okay? I've always been thinking about this, whatnot, especially with my green card application to the US. It's a lottery. So if it happens, I always think like, I like the idea of being in a shooting range, target shooting. I like that. I probably wouldn't want to have a gun in my house though, because it's a famous movie trope. If there's a gun in one scene, it gets used. So yeah, it's just not worth it. Like if you want to protect your house, there are other ways to do this. But then again, I would love to go to a gun range every weekend, maybe burn 500 rounds. I don't need to own the goddamn gun. I don't get that thing. If you really think you're in a dangerous line of job or something, okay, maybe get a little pistol, but I hope you're not living with somebody else. Like, really, I can't tell you how dangerous it is. When people live together, you fight. When you fight, things could go weird, okay? That's why that's the reason. I'm not going to name any names. I have an American friend, not even going to release their gender, but they lost their parents to a murder suicide. It was just like a flash of anger. And these people were like, not like your gun toting rednecks. They were just very well educated, cool people. This happened one day. So this is why I think I would never have a weapon in my house. Stratospheric says, hello, Turkish man. Hello, person from unknown location. Yes, Chekhov's gun, says Aksijak Films. Yeah. Cookie says, understandable about guns. Boris Chonev says, Charigrad, it means the king city. Yes. So Boris Chonev, sorry, I'm going to dox you, but he's a friend from Bulgaria. In Bulgarian, Charigrad is the name they use for Istanbul. So yeah, means the king city. Gaja says, what old obscure books do you recommend? Oh God, I got a lot. This week, my haul included oh, liberating this amazing volume from a second-hand bookseller. God damn. And this is the entire life work of Graham Sutherland. He's a British surrealist and expressionist painter. He was also notably, like, this is what his works look like. So he's like Picasso for landscapes. He was inspired by surrealist masters like Max Ernst and Kandinsky. Has a language all of his own, but this is just unbelievable. But this is the guy who inspired mm, Lucian Freud and Francis Bacon. I just found this in Istanbul just like that. And it was an amazing bargain too, like almost totally free. Now, this guy is amazing because in some of his works, actually, he goes into paleo art, believe it or not. I wonder if I can find it, but Graham Sutherland, everybody. Like, if you follow me on Pinterest, I also have pinned a lot of works by him. It's just amazing. Like, this is why I think still the British have this like really exquisite sense of aesthetics, and like they determine where art is going to go in the next century. Really sublime, really beautiful. Look at these. And he's using chalk and gouache, just like my little dorky paintings. So this is like chalk, black chalk and gouache paint. Of course, I still have miles to go before I'm an amazing artist like Sutherland. I'm just gonna find this paleo art thing that he did, and then we can move on to other questions. Plus, I'll rest a little. This is a vintage book printed in the 1950s. That's back then they could not afford color prints a lot, so this is why it is the way it is. But I mean, look, I couldn't find the pterosaur paintings, but he has these things like they're called head. Look at these. Unbelievable. So I really recommend this book, or if you can't get this book because it's very rare, I was just so lucky to find it. Look him up, Graham Sutherland. And man, the British could make books back in the day. This is just so solid and well done. The typography, the page layouts, all done by hand, by the way, no computers. Look at it. They got all these spaces for like clarity, because they know when you look at a page, you can't take it all and you need negative space to focus. Amazing. Who is the living equivalent of H.P. Lovecraft, says Elior Solomon. Probably some people we don't know the name of who are writing for the SCP forums. Or maybe this YouTuber, Kane Pixels, who did the famous Backroom series. Akshak Films says Junji Ito. I don't think Junji Ito can match with Lovecraft. Even with Lovecraft's personal failings considered. Look, this is an odd take from me, but I think Junji Ito is a little overrated. A little, huh? He's technically a great artist, but after one point, all his stories like, oh, something strange is happening in this town. Oh, some kids, some girl. But Like him or hate him, what Lovecraft did was break new ground. Before Lovecraft, or for example, before the Mountains of Madness, there was no published book even postulating the existence of like archaeological discoveries pertaining to races from other planets. Just a second, I'll be right back. Canlı yayındayım. Ha, yok. Refleks diye çekmiş. Ya tamam açılmıyor mu o zaman? It's a full house. If you had to choose, would you be Lovecraft or Wells? I would have to choose H.G. Wells. And now looking back at Lovecraft, okay, he was a deeply problematic individual, but his stories introduce concepts that nobody else thought about back in the day. Like, whereas Junji Ito is like has perfect execution, really like delicious stories. But the whole thing about weird things happening in a school, okay. Then if you look at somebody like Kane Pixels, the guy who did the YouTube series for Backrooms, I think he's done something that Lovecraft did like this. He introduced this whole, maybe he didn't introduce, but he like formulated and forged this whole new genre of narrative art. Dan S says, what do you have to say about all the AI stuff everywhere? It's inescapable, isn't it? 42 people watching. By the way, we're going to a new record. Hello, everybody. If you're a lurker, let me know. Where are you from? Tell me I'm a lurker. So we know all the lurkers in town. What do you think about all the AI stuff everywhere? Okay, it's inescapable. Like I was Googling my own artworks and my name, and then even for me, and I'm not an extremely popular artist, but even for me, there are AI artworks created in the style of CM Kozman. So I think it's just going to be like pervasive. It's still, you can still tell it apart from real photographs, though. Stratospheric says, Ne Kwajim Stambol. I'm going to put that through translate. Which language are you talking? We call it Istanbul, but it's Albanian. Ah, so you're a Shkiperia friend. Edward Dory says, I'm working on a book proposal right now and it's getting a bit boring. What do you say when a project becomes somewhat dull? Just power through. It's going to be boring, but you need to get through the tedious parts. Even if it fails, complete the proposal, because completing things gives you the internal satisfaction and the internal conviction that you can do things. Try never to leave things undone. I mean, you can wrap them up if they're not successful, but force it through. Let's check some messages. Just a second. Digital Banyo says, what marker brand do you use, Abi? What would you recommend? I'm not particularly choosy. I have this thing, which is Masis, which is a Turkish brand. These were really cheap. They do the job. You have these Delrays. They're alcohol-based markers. These give a really like smooth and like flowy line, like ink. I really like that. I especially use the black. The others, I just used to add tone to pen or pencil drawings. So yes. C Cyborg says, could finally make it to another stream. Glad to be back. Cookie says, opinion on Star Wars. It's one of the best narratives ever conducted. The Disney Star Wars films don't exist as far as I'm concerned, except for Rogue One and maybe Solo. I'm not a huge fan of the Mandalorian series either, and I just lost interest with Ashoka and all those, which is a pity because I've heard it was pretty good, maybe. But actually, the prequels were the best. I really love them. They have so much to tell politically. They actually talk a lot about the whole incursion from other realms into politics problem that the world is dealing with. I think Lucas is way smarter than most people make it out to be. Yeah, and the Clone Wars cartoons were great. Cookies recommends Andor, the Star Wars series. Okay, I need to watch that too. Apparently, it was very good. Thoughts on Robert E. Howard? He was, yeah, he was this sort of prolific but kind of try-hard character who was also associated at one point with H.P. Lovecraft. I haven't read many stories by him, so I don't know. If you want a contemporary of Lovecraft's that's like really interesting, you should try Clark Ashton Smith. He's got a like his imagination is like absinthe. I really like his stuff. Benny says, have you heard of Monster Garden? It's a really neat world building project. Let's look at it. Whoa, lots of, okay. I haven't seen this. Looks very interesting, but I need to deep dive later. Let's check some messages. All right. Blake Richardson says, do you think humanoid aliens are possible? Maybe. But if we dissect them, we would find they have like a completely different anatomy inside. Like maybe their jaws are not derived from gill arches, but from a different set of limbs. I talk about this I talk about this a lot in a certain video I have about convergent evolution. Like I think if you go to alien worlds and see animals, provided that the plant and the habitats are generally Earth-like, we might see animals that kind of look similar. They have similar silhouettes, but look slightly closer, and the anatomy inside that silhouette is completely different. Kozeman says, Cookies, have you been to the US before? A few times. Twice with my family, once to the West Coast, once to New York. Then I spent a lot of years there. I actually studied in the States in Cornell University. Here's, I even carry it with me, my Ivy League ID. Did you hear that? That was the cat. 42 people. We're breaking records here. Wow. So then I also traveled as a tourist after that, like once on the East Coast. I drove from all the way from New York to Cincinnati, drove almost all the way through Pennsylvania. The cat is ready for war. Then I did a big trip. I was invited to a history conference in Albuquerque. Then from there flew to Seattle, then drew all the way from Seattle along the seaboard to San Francisco. Kyra Fiskov says Cincinnati. Yes. Spinosar says, Merhaba, Rabbi Kuseman. Not sure what's happened to you. I had this sort of neck cramp injury because I was doing rail slides and I had that. I sprained the neck and back muscle. Fernando Kotekoik says, bye, bye, bye, bye. Cauliflower says, geçmiş olsun, sir. Thank you, my dear friend. Have you watched the Alien Worlds documentary on Netflix? I liked it, but it was pretty generic. Like thinking back, I was like, oh, what did I see? Like there were some of these balloon creatures. It was nice though. I like it when there are documentaries like that, even if they stay obscure. So those things can like feel obscure, but after a while they like boom come back, and a lot of people remember them suddenly, and that's cool. Just a second. Ask some questions, by the way. While I'm just getting back at some messages, let's see what you got to say. Let's get some questions about the intersection of politics, military weapons, and social media. Those were cool. Infantile Gains, I salute you. Where are you from, by the way, Infantile Gains? Which country are you from? All right, back. Infantile Gain says, I'm a gurbetçi from the Netherlands. Nice. Which country? I mean, which city? Batuhan Bash says, do you think happiness is overrated? No. But happiness is such a broad and elusive subject that I think the question itself kind of falls apart. Okay, I'm happy, but also, like, this question aside, get this in your head. You will never be truly happy in your life. You will always have like something troubling you in your life. Even if you are like extremely wealthy, you will always have something troubling your life. Always a concern. That's how the human mind works. I think our perception of trouble is like a gas. It expands to fill every volume, but it can also be compressed. So you're never going to be like 100% okay. There's always some future trauma waiting to come on you, or some past trauma you need to deal with, or some urgent shit on your agenda. But you also have all these happy moments, like a cup of coffee, a nice live stream, hanging out with some friends, or kindness of a lover, something like that. Take them and savor them, drink them in. Cookie says, Kozeman, what's your favorite American-based fast food restaurant? It has to be Culver's Burgers. Oh, I love that thing. Culver's, Culvers, Culver's Burgers. They have these amazing oof, butter-flavored hamburgers. Oh, I could kill to taste that. Cookie says, Culver's is also my favorite. It is, isn't it? Culver's, Wisconsin cheese curds. Culver's, very good. Dan S says, we do not have Culver's. Edward Dory asks, how do you deal with alienation in college? I'm a graduate student majoring in English. I find my extreme interest in comics separates me from my peers. Oh, brother, just push the arrowhead out of the other way. If you feel you're isolated, go all the way in. Push it out, push the arrowhead head out the other way. You know the metaphor? Because you can't pull an arrowhead out because it tears your flesh, but you just push it, come out like so. Even be more isolated, be more true to yourself, your desires, then find like-minded people. The good thing about college is you don't need to socialize with the people in that college campus. You're an adult in a way. The whole world is open to you. You got mobility, you got, at least I hope, some sort of disposable income. Use those, seek like-minded people out. All right? Absent Fish answers a question that another friend asked. So Squidlord asks, how do obese insects look? And Absent Fish, knowing about the subject, says, if you ever dissect a roach, you will see how it looks. There are masses of fat-filled tissue in its internal cavities, and these do not show on the outside, but if the insect is fat, then the tissue like fills it inside. That's interesting. Cookies says, I would kill for another suck of the Culver's vanilla. Yes, yes. Look, if my green card fails, one of you adopt me or something. So I become a US citizen. America is blessed with my wisdom and art and shit. Plus, I get to have Culvers. Oh yeah, also if someone really adopts me and makes me a US citizen, they get to own my entire art estate, which after I die will be worth millions, I can assure you. Dan S says, which Turkish and non-Turkish historic figures you look up to? Well, of course, you got to separate the man from the legend, but even then, you can't help but look up to Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the guy who, after World War I, established Turkey as an independent country again, and just a world apart from anybody that came later. I also really, I mean, having ancestors who grew up in Turkey, I really look up to. It's kind of like, it's cool to hate on this guy. So there is a leader in Turkey named İsmet İnönü. Right after, during the World War II years, he was not a popular governor, but he kept Turkey out of World War II, and it's just a blessing. Like, it's a blessing and a curse. Millions didn't die under Axis or Allied indenture again. It also, because Turkey stayed out of World War II, generations did not really understand what fascism was, or like extreme right-wing politics could lead to. So, a lot of Europe had this kind of allergy to right-wing politics until maybe the last 5 years. This was the rule of the world, because they knew firsthand what right-wing politics could do. So that's tainted Turkish politics after that, because if you've been in Turkey, like, Turkish politics is like so far to the right. The language they use, the symbols that get floated around, it's strange. Infantile Gains says, do you think Atatürk inspired Mussolini and Hitler? No, not at all. Atatürk actually gained power before Hitler, that's for sure. I think around the world then there was a proclivity for monumental leaders. Even in America, you had the imperial president Roosevelt. So yeah. Who else in Turkish history? I'm a big fan of Mahmud II, the Ottoman Sultan, who launched the Ottoman Empire's great campaign of modernization, the Tanzimat reform in the early 1800s. And like, this guy, he took the Ottoman Empire to the road which eventually led to the present day. He was a great reformer. Also, like, politically, he did a lot of things that really shaped the world as we know it. Like, really. Also, another great Turkish leader that I really like and look up to, this, you might find this interesting, but I'm a really big fan of Abdülhamit II. Now, he was, towards the end of his regime, he was universally disliked and derided. So he was not without his faults. But I think he was the last sultan who could wield power, who knew what power was, who could think about the consequences of power. He could see the world where it was going. He actually established so many modern reforms: the railway system, extended telegraph networks, economic overhauls, modern university systems, which paradoxically trained the reformist generation that later ousted him. But of course, he could not let go of power. Maybe that was his weakness. Or maybe he knew that if he let go of power, he would probably die. Towards the end of his reign, his administration suffered great setbacks. But still, I mean, this was one of the people who like made modern Turkey. And in contemporary politics, I don't want to like bore our foreign visitors too much with Ottoman and Turkish politics, but so let me simplify it for you. This Abdulhamid guy is now seen as a kind of religious sultan, and it was like as a reactionary. And then they kind of like contrast him fakely with Atatürk. But actually, no, both of these people worked for the survival of this realm. And if you have any past in here, or if you have any future in this part of the world, you got to at least appreciate them for. And they had failings too. Like nobody's a universally good or universally bad leader, especially not in politics, especially not in this part of the world. But yeah. Kyra Fiskov says, I feel that if I spent more time with fellow workday students and pursuing my interests me truly than putting myself out there by associating with yuppies, my time would have been better. Yeah, look, those people in college or high school, there is popular people, you feel maybe the need to grow closer to them or hang out with them. But actually, these people always use you as a foil to just feel better about themselves. Just fuck it, forget it. Be you. Don't have a lot of friends. Like if you do that, you actually emerge a cooler person at the end. Let Daddy Cosman tell you something, you also get more girls. Let's see. Blake Richardson says, should I work out my arms or my back? Infantile Gain says back and biceps. Infantile Gains asks, do you think the Ottoman Empire was a Balkan empire or an Oriental empire? It was a Turkish and a Muslim gunpowder empire. And all those terms, Balkans, Orientals, they are terms invented later on by British Admiralty charts and stuff. So why judge it in those terms? That being said, I think until the reign of Suleiman the Great or his predecessor, Yavuz the Grim, Ottomans were in Western Anatolia and Eastern Balkans. And actually, there are documents indicating that, for example, at one point, the palace elite spoke more fluently in Serbian than even in Turkish. So they had that sort of a makeup. But now there's this kind of propensity to say, the Ottomans were Balkans because they were European or something. It doesn't matter. The Ottoman civilization, the masters of that civilization did not see themselves in those terms. Those terms come later. They are later stickers. Boris Chonev says, I want to hike in the Alps and northern Norway. I hope you do it. Elior Solomon says, could dark matter organisms exist? Does anyone even like know what dark matter is? They're just blank things in the universe where we don't get sensor data from. Is it like an actual matter that's dark, or is it an absence of something? Who knows? Cauliflower says, yes, the early Ottoman Empire was a lot more Balkan in its early years. Yes, I mean, For example, Macedonia was Ottoman way before Rize or the Black Sea coast, you know? It had a different it brought a different mix of people and policies and issues into the mix. But all I'm saying is the Ottomans did not consider themselves Balkan at that time because that term did not exist. Marshmallow Monster says the best sci-fi books from 2010. I don't know. I haven't read many recent sci-fi books, I'm afraid. Maybe I should. Some of what was it? The Laundromat Files. The Laundry Files by Charles Stross. Charles Stross writes some good stuff. Stross. Nice over the top and cerebral adventures. Go look him up. Stross. Dan S says, do you think if humanity goes to space, we will just end up diversifying into a different species, but without something like the Kuhanim from All Tomorrows? I mean, provided that, look, going to another star and setting a colony there, it's forget about it. It's impossible. You can maybe send robots there, but sending a colony for, as we know it, it's impossible. But imagine it happened, like there's a wormhole or some shit, whatever. Then I think it's inevitable that the people settling those different planets will evolve into different species. Because even with this magic counterfactual technology, just it takes so much energy to travel from one planet to another. I mean, you go, then you spend the same energy to brake, because remember, there's no air in space to brake against. It's just impossible. But if it happened, then I think inevitable, like let's say people go to Alpha Centauri and set up a new world there somehow. But then, yeah, there's no way back. It's not an easy travel. It's not like the Star Wars universe where you go from town to town, like from planet to planet, as if traveling from town to town. In that case, you're isolated. Isolation leads to speciation. All right. Blake Richardson, Donkey Kong Max says, hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Squidlord says, an actual Balkan empire created with countries from the Balkans would not end well. I agree. Look, once nationalism and tribalism creeps in, it's very, very hard to undo that. Even if everybody had the best intentions, like somebody's going to ask, like, who's the leader? Who's the head honcho here? Like that. Never going to happen. The Balkans are a nice place. You could travel from different countries, visit different cities. But they just had a very recent and horrible war in which Europe watched them destroy themselves and didn't do nothing. They were so happy. And the US was very happy too. Finally, after the Cold War, being able to bomb targets with Cyrillic letters in their names. It's a travesty, it's a shame. One of the darkest, most disgraceful acts. They destroy the whole country. You can't put that back again. I'm afraid not. Why did the Ottomans see themselves as a continuation of Rome when Turks sacked both West and Eastern Rome. Turks did not sack Western Rome unless you consider Attila the Hun Turkish, which maybe. I mean, he may be from the same ethnic group or national subgroup or whatever, but they did not have apparently, as far as we know, they did not have a Turkish agenda. And even then, don't you have fights with your parents? Favorite gunpowder empire, says Norj Di Selpa. Sorry for butchering your name. Besides Ottomans, the Mughals, they led to this wonderful flowering of arts and architecture. Steve Mobcannon, what do you recommend to someone wanting to write a book or story but can't get himself to start writing because of perfectionism? Yes, of course, this is relevant to Steve Mobcannon's own project called Ptanum B. He has a deep lore about that too. So Ptanum B, let's put it into context, is a really well-made alien life project. It's got some of the most creative and diverse group of aliens I've ever seen in fiction. And his artwork is just impeccable, beautiful artwork. And then you got all these weird creatures, and they're all like wild creatures too. They're things that look like tanks, jet engine animals. It looks like it looks like a mix of the Isle and War Thunder. Actually, there should be a War Thunder mode with Ptanum B creatures. That would be amazing to play. And then on the other side, Ptanum also has a deep lore of these characters, planetary rulers. Forgive my ignorance. As far as I know, there's a big war between an Earth government and a lunar government or a Mars government. And then both planets are destroyed. So people move to this new world, and there are all these characters who make these pivotal decisions. It's a very great lore. But connecting them to this diverse world, it's hard. It's a hard mission to write. So I wish you all the best. Just override perfectionism. Like in the beginning, you're gonna do some silly stuff. You're gonna go and retcon a lot of stuff. That's just how the thing works. Just push forward. Or you could choose the other hazy approach, in which maybe you don't talk about the lore either at all, but drop hints of it. Like maybe there's like an Alatamar University named after one of your characters, or maybe drop hints that this creature was observed in the ruins of the city right after the bombing, suggesting it was very resilient. Or like, so drop little hints. Maybe look at old issues of National Geographic, and there are always these like little hints between the lines about how like they deal with nature writing during the time of the Cold War. See how politics filter to the scene. Because in my humble opinion, and don't take this as guiding advice, but in my humble opinion, the greatest strength of the Ptanum project is its amazing variety of creatures. I say maybe chronicle the creatures first, and then loosely pepper hints of the greater story around them. Or maybe you could do it just as an appendix. Also do a timeline first, then write about your characters, because writing about characters can like stall pretty easily. I know from experience. Just a second. Just a second. Woo, okay. Cookie says, Cosm and hop on Fortnite. I'm not a big fan of Fortnite or Player Unknown, PUBG. I just don't like games where you just shoot each other. And that's not because of the violence either. I just think it's just boring. Batuan Bash says wormhole travel may be possible. Really? I mean, the energy is involved. Like, even theoretically, you need to pump more energy than like what a sun produces in 50 years to get one ship through whatever. And then maybe it opens a bridge, but can any material survive that trip? Come on, be real. Maybe you can have like one little quantum tunnel and send data through it, or like, I don't know, peek through it. I don't know. Blake Richardson says, do you think a Kardashev scale type 3 alien civilization is possible? I think the Kardashev scale is misguided. It's an engineer's approach to a far more complicated issue that is life. And it's like, so the Kardashev scale goes like, if you can use the, wait, let me paraphrase it. It's a hypothetical scale. So if you use all the energy from a planet, you're a level 1 civilization. If you are able to use all the energy created by a star, you are a level 2 civilization. So like maybe you surround the sun with like a shell of mirrors and like get all the energy, whatever. And then if you can use all energy created in a galaxy, then you're a type 3 civilization. This is such an absurd thing. Do you think any entity powerful enough to use energy would still be using it for machines or like civilization? Civilization is a thing, very particular thing created by, among, and for human beings, basically to drive forth trade and then exercise the power that results from it. That's civilization. So why, if you can somehow use all the energy from a star or galaxies, what are you doing? I mean, it doesn't even match. It's very theoretical. It actually suffers from this like clunky problems that a lot of Soviet science associated with. I don't know. If something like that is possible, it won't even look like a civilization. It will look like a natural phenomenon. Donkey Kong Max really summarizes my thoughts. If you discover intelligent life in the galaxy, in space, we wouldn't even recognize it as being intelligent. I really agree. Dan S says, I don't like tech levels. Yeah, I mean, like, is this a game? I think civilizations could be more advanced than humanity. Heck, I'll grant it. Even if everything went perfectly, we probably could have like some limited scientific research basis or industrial activity on the moon. Technically, there's no way you can terraform Mars. NASA did a study on it, and they just understood that No matter how much oxygen you pump into Mars, the planet's atmosphere is weak, the gravity is weak, it will just end up escaping anyway. So it's impossible. But you could send a lot of robot probes to different parts of the solar system, maybe even robotically explore a lot of the distant moons of Jupiter and stuff. So expedition is not impossible. Settlement and civilization building almost certainly is impossible. Squidlord says we gotta go to Kardashev type V. Yeah. So if type 3, this is like those silly logic questions in IQ tests. If type 1 is a planet, type 2 is a star, type 3 is a galaxy, what is type 4? Maybe multiple galaxies. What is type 5? Maybe a multiverse. Oh, they're taxing everybody. God damn. Yeah, Dan S says, futurologists and transhumanists really underestimate the size of the galaxy. They think that colonizing the galaxy is just like going from island to island, just drop in a spaceship and move on. I agree. I agree. I think the whole idea of this like Star Wars or Star Trek kind of space travel, it's no coincidence it evolved in the United States, because you could hop on a car and drive several hours to a new town or a new city or a new state and start life all over again. And there are many differences between states or towns, but there are also a wide variety of people, religions, ethnicities in the United States. So that sort of whole Star Wars, Star Trek sort of planet to planet spaceship travel universe, it's no coincidence how it evolved in the United States. Just a second. Oh, it's our good friend Milady Class. Is the idea of colonizing other planets an inherently capitalist idea? I don't think so. I mean, the Soviets being communist, actually had a lot of like wild projects about terraforming and colonizing their own part of the world, and it all ended in disaster. They destroyed the Caspian Sea. They created like untold ecological disasters around Kazakhstan, places like that. Now, in these days, there's some sort of discourse like equating a colonizing mindset with capitalism and evil, and I think some of these links are organic and deserve a critique. But I think if you want to go to another planet and like establish stuff there, it's an impossible task, but I don't think it's a capitalist task. I think it's just an instinctive thing. I mean, that instinct evolved in the world. It drove humans from Africa to Europe to the Americas to Polynesia. So I think people always have this instinct to like look for new pastures, and it's too basic to be classified as capitalist or evil or imperialist or whatever. The only problem is that the scales in the world, in the universe, or even the solar system are just so vast. So it doesn't really. Some people give me a pushback, but I don't think. I think it's a human instinct. Dan S makes a good point. Like imperialism is not entirely a capitalist concept. The Soviets were pretty imperialist in Eastern Europe. Yeah, yeah. Popular says a lot of space colonization stories. They're fun to read. Popular says a lot of space colonization stories feel like adventure novels. It does. But those projects, they're so vast that I don't think any single character could see the whole picture or live through the whole picture. Absent Fish says the spaceship planet to planet road trip sci-fi story trope as we see in Star Wars and Star Trek probably did not evolve in the US, he says. Maybe it originated somewhere else, but I think every work of fiction that drove it to new heights, be it those amazing stories magazines or Star Wars itself or Star Trek itself, they're all American creations. You can really see it like transparently in Rick and Morty, where Rick has this UFO that's like a car and it's like a little van, and they go on a van and they have adventures and explore places and get into trouble. It's a very American thing. Although I would say like some British comics like Dan Dare and stuff, they also had this similar thing. So maybe the germ came from the UK, but the flower grew in the States. Milady Class says, I don't like the idea of colonizing aliens that already live on a planet. It sounds imperialist. Yes, actually, it things like that always end in genocide. Like, especially if you're looking at another world. Like, look at what happened in Australia or Tasmania. Extirpation. Awful stuff. In case if you're colonizing a planet, remember you will need to farm there, so you need to bring all the plants and animals and shit. And then you will also need to commit ecocide, not just genocide. You will need to destroy that ecology and replace it with yours. So, yeah. Regardless of realism, the Dune setting of by Frank Herbert is just so wacky and interesting, says Steve Mopcannon. I agree. I really agree. Look, you gotta take like after a point, even the hardest science fiction is as realistic as the wildest fantasy. It's still not real. Like you could like really calculate with all the design, all the spaceships. It's just fantasy. And I think science fiction, no matter how silly and unrealistic, has still a lot to teach us in considering other narratives, other possibilities. I think it's a really versatile and graceful genre. Just a second. Yeah, Green World, says Kara Friskov. Green World is a book by Dougal Dixon. It's very similar to all these things we were discussing right now, in which people arrive on a new planet, encounter new aliens, and then slowly and stupidly ruin the planet. It's a very dark book. And yeah, I mean, it should be published in the English language. I'm getting a bit sleepy, guys, and the neck pain isn't getting any better. Ben Jackson says, do you consider Turkey part of the global south? No, because we were never a colony. Something to be proud about that. Milady Class says, what did you do to your neck? I was doing rail slides down some stairs. Oh, then I hit the ground too hard and I did whiplash, and then I sprained the muscle that connects the right side of my neck, back of my neck to my shoulder. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna call it a night. So any last questions, like especially questions outside of the discussion we've been having so far? Squidlord says, no more rail slides, stick to petting glass shards. No, I have done, and I will keep doing risky stuff. What's the joy in life if you don't do that? Mondo Endargon says, why do your fingers always have scratches? Good question. Well, okay, this is my only vice. Like, I don't smoke, I barely drink, I don't need drugs. I am drugs. I don't need drugs. This is my only vice. When I'm stressed, which is not always, but when I'm stressed, I do a little self manicure, or like just in some cases, I just get a kind of pocket knife and just chat, cut away. It's just relaxing. I feel like I'm doing manicure. I'm like kind of like correcting my fingers, stuff like that. And I can say, like, at least this hand has no pain feelings left on it. Like, I could cut this, wouldn't hurt. I like it. It's my only vice, but I'm not cutting anybody else. I'm not doing it with suicidal intent. It's not that bad. Look, this is my good hand. Pretty reasonable. This is my weird hand. For some, it's a kink. I'm an eccentric, guys. Don't. I mean, it's. I'm an eccentric. Milady Class says, do you like vegan food? What are your thoughts on vegan food and the concept of vegan food? I admire the ethics behind it. I personally love meat and eggs and milk and dairy, so I can't be vegan. So, but I admire that. I mean, I wish the default food culture in the world was vegan or vegetarian, because if you look at farm animals, they're really sentient beings. I mean, pigs, like those cows, if you dance with them, they dance. The sheep, they are. Like the relationship we have with farm animals should be, of course, if we don't eat them, they will go extinct too. But I just believe those animals are suffering so badly. It's a very complicated and very unfair situation. Thoughts on cultured meat. If it becomes affordable and it comes out, I will be the first person to convert to it. So I would love to have a cell cultured Culver's burger. Edward Dory says, how did you learn about Harvey Pekar? Oh, he's this American Splendor guy. I just watched the film American Splendor. Just Call Me Anon says, I asked 5 questions and I have yet to be even acknowledged. But you answer every one of Milady class questions. What gives? Look, first of all, Milady class has been a regular contributor to this channel for a long time. I know their profile when it pops up. And the other part isn't personal because a lot of people were asking. So, if you can repeat one of your questions, let's answer that. Look, don't take these things personally. Come on. I'm sorry. I wish, but as this channel grows, Absent Fish says, have to go now. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, man. And hope your neck feels better soon. Thank you. Don't hate the player, man. Hate the game. But seriously, like, okay. Just Call Me Anon asks, have you read The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu? People keep recommending me. Sarah, who's another commenter to this channel, was recently talking to me about reading it. I still have to finish. I still have to read it. İyi geceler. İyi geceler. Cixin Liu is the same author who wrote same author who wrote no, actually, I don't know. I don't know about the three-body problem. Maybe I should read it. Infantile Gains says, I have to go to geçmiş olsun. Sevgiler. Just scrolling back. $30 people still watching. I love you guys. Sundays are great with you. Thank you. I might make it a regular thing on Sundays from these days. On some beef growing in the comments. Look, just call me Anon. If you got any one more question, I will take it. Cosm Sundays, I'm up for it. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Just Call Me Anon asked if Erdogan should be doing more to help Palestinians. Mm, I don't know. Like, go ask the nearest Turkish government representative. I personally think he's one of the few world leaders who's been outspoken, but he's a very pragmatic leader. I'll just say that. Elior Solomon says, Bjork or Tattoo? I hate them both equally. Like Bjork, as far as I'm concerned, is almost as fake and contrived as Tattoo, which was this mid 2000s fake Russian lesbian band. I don't know. There's something about Bjork that's just like, yes, I'm a dreamy alien girl. Not my thing. Oh, Yoko Ono is, I think Yoko Ono is in a lower circle of hell than all of them. I know Rammstein, the band. I love it. I love their music. I really dislike Yoko Ono vehemently. If you had an evil twin who lives on the moon, would he be called Siam Koza Moon? That's no moon. That's a battle station. I don't know. I think if evil twins live on the moon, his name should be Nemesök, like Siam Kozaman spelled backwards, because that's how like dark, magically evil. Kaworu, exactly. Like, imagine me as Kaworu. White hair, pale. Dennis says, what do you think about Boards of Canada or Afex Twin? I like Afex Twin. I haven't listened to Boards of Canada. Do you have a favorite restaurant in your city? Says Marcio Mendoza. I think it has to be the Sinop Mantı restaurant of Turkish ravioli meals. Because they do this, like, imagine dumplings but are smaller, filled with meat, and many of them in one plate, doused with ground up walnuts, and then doused with molten butter. And it's also in my favorite part of the city, Beşiktaş. So Sinop Mantı, Sinopmanti. Checking some messages. Blake Richardson says, do you know Lincoln Park? One thing. I don't know why. Don't even know where to do. And then I listened to their songs. Not exactly my thing, but I like their music. I like the time when I first heard their music. It's a memorable, nostalgic time now. Kare Priskov says, I'm having pan-crusted chicken with white cheddar mac and cheese. Dan S says, favorite animated film? Maybe Princess Mononoke. Edward Dory says, is your audience mostly below the age of 18? I don't think so. I got a lot of younger admirers, but for example, these streams and my videos, they're always tagged not for children, not for kids. Milady Class says, Wendy Goon released part 4 of the Cryptid Iceberg 3 days ago. I like Wendy Goon. I mean, he's a amicable, popular guy. something about him, but I don't know. I don't know. All right, everybody. Almost 2.5 hours. It's been a great night. My back and neck are killing me. Slowly gonna call it a night. Let's get some cologne on us. See you, says everybody. Have a great week. I hope work or school or both they aren't too harsh on you tomorrow. Check this out. Rosehip flavored cologne. Just the best. I like rubbing it into my eyes late at night. Before going, I'll also give you a life hack. So when you do these kind of drawings, it's like charcoal outlines with watercolors. It's very easy to smudge. There's a way to make it not smudge. Now, sometimes artists use these things called fixative spray, which is really expensive. But a cheaper alternative is hairspray. Go downtown and get the cheapest hairspray you can find. The cheaper, the better. This one costs like literally like 70 cents US prices. And just use this instead of expensive art fixative. It really works well. And like, just look, doesn't smudge, no smudges. So yeah. Anon, just call me Anon says, thanks for taking my question. Hope your neck heals up. It also makes it feel good, yes. Good night, Cosman. I love you. I love you all. Well, then, using the Akat Gardi hairspray, look at the metallic green sheen. I think I'll just keep this even after it's empty. It's just such a beautiful object. I just think it's neat to acquire, have and hold, place it on a shelf and admire it. It works. Good night, peoples.